When Disneyland closes its gates and the last guest leaves, an entirely different world awakens behind the magic. Did you know over 1,500 workers start their shift at 11:30 at night? 200 feral cats patrol for mice, and cast members must greet a ghost named George to prevent ride malfunctions? From 150-foot fire hoses washing Main Street to animatronics that never power down, the park transforms into something completely unexpected after midnight. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Disneyland after midnight. Fact 1. Over 1,500 workers start their shift at midnight. When Disneyland's gates close for the night and the last guests head home, an entirely different workforce is just arriving to begin their shift. Starting at 11:30 p.m. every single night, more than 1,500 cast members clock in to work the third shift at the Disneyland Resort, transforming the empty park into a massive overnight operation. This crew includes machinists who inspect every single ride, gardeners who mow lawns and trim trees, electricians who handle repairs, and custodial workers who clean every surface in both parks, making sure everything is ready when guests arrive the next morning. Rich Langhorst, the Vice President of Facilities and Operation Services for the Disneyland Resort, explained that the third shift, cast members have to make sure everything gets done, from routine cleaning and maintenance to major projects like replacement of pavement and ride tracks. He pointed out that when they replaced Big Thunder Mountain Railroad's track a few years ago, it required workers to be on site 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for several months straight, showing just how massive these overnight operations can become when needed. The third shift runs roughly from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., though some positions work even longer hours, with full 8-hour shifts and paid lunches included. Workers receive what's called a shift differential, which is extra pay for working overnight hours when most people are sleeping. The challenges of working third shift go beyond just staying awake through the night. One custodial worker described her routine as sleeping for only 3 hours when she got home in the morning, then napping throughout the day, showing how difficult it can be to maintain a normal sleep schedule when your workday starts at midnight. Langhorst tells his crew that to successfully work the third shift, they have to figure out their sleep schedule and stick to it, as well as eat good meals. He also mentions one major advantage to starting work at 11:30 at night: absolutely no traffic on the commute. Fact 2. They use 150-foot fire hoses. To wash everything every night after Disneyland closes its gates to guests, the custodial crew begins one of the most impressive cleaning operations in the theme park industry by rolling out massive 150-foot-long fire hoses to power wash virtually every surface in the park. These aren't the kind of garden hoses you might use in your backyard. These are industrial-strength fire hoses that can blast away sticky spills, footprints, gum residue, and every other mark left behind by tens of thousands of daily visitors. The overnight custodial staff connects these enormous hoses and methodically works their way through Main Street, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, and every other area of the park, spraying down sidewalks, walkways, streets, and even vertical surfaces like benches and shade structures. According to accounts from Disneyland cast members who work the third shift, this nightly power washing operation is so thorough that the streets are often still visibly wet when the first early morning guests arrive at rope drop. Former overnight workers have described the process as one of the most satisfying jobs at the park because you can actually see the transformation happening in real time as clean water washes away the evidence of the previous day. The custodial crew doesn't just focus on the obvious high-traffic areas either. They power wash everything from the esplanade between Disneyland and Disney California Adventure all the way to the bus stops outside the park on Harbor Boulevard, ensuring that even guests who haven't entered the park yet are greeted with spotless surfaces. This obsessive attention to cleanliness goes all the way back to Walt Disney himself, who famously told a skeptical journalist in the 1950s that Disneyland would be kept so clean that people would feel embarrassed to throw anything on the ground. The nightly power washing ritual with these 150-foot hoses is a direct continuation of that promise, ensuring that every morning feels like opening day all over again. Fact 3. 200 feral cats have the park to themselves. When Disneyland closes for the night and the last guests walk through the gates, an entirely different workforce takes over the park, and they're not the human cleaning crews you might expect. Around 200 feral cats live at Disneyland and have made the property their permanent home, coming out after dark to to patrol the grounds and hunt for rodents. And in return, Disney provides them with everything they need to live comfortable and healthy lives. These cats have feeding stations strategically placed throughout the park. They receive full medical care, including vaccinations and regular checkups, and every single cat has been spayed or neutered to keep the population under control, making this one of the best cared-for feral cat colonies in the entire country. The care these cats receive is serious and organized, managed by the same cast members who work at Circle D Ranch, which is the part of Disneyland responsible for looking after all of the park's working animals, including the Main Street trolley horses and the goats at Big Thunder Ranch. These cast members refill the feeding stations regularly, provide medical treatment whenever a cat needs it, and generally keep watch over the entire feline population to make sure they're healthy and safe. The feeding stations themselves are cleverly hidden just out of sight in areas like Adventureland, Tom Sawyer's Island, and other parts of the park with dense foliage, so guests rarely notice them during the day, but the cats know exactly where to find their meals when they need them. While Disney keeps most of these cats because they're excellent at pest control and they stay away from people during operating hours, there's an interesting exception to the arrangement. If a cat starts getting too friendly with guests or begins approaching people for attention during the day, Disney adopts that cat out to a cast member so it can have a proper home with human companionship. And the same thing happens with any kittens that are accidentally born on the property despite the spay and neuter program. This system has worked so well since it started in the late 1950s that the cat population has remained stable at around 200 for decades, and these cats have become such a beloved part of Disneyland that they even have their own Instagram account and dedicated fan websites where people share photos and stories about spotting them around the park. Fact 4. The cats were first discovered living in Sleeping Beauty Castle. Back in the late 1950s, Walt Disney had big plans for Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. The iconic structure had been standing as the park's centerpiece since opening day in 1955, but it was mostly just a beautiful facade that guests could walk through. Disney wanted to transform it into an actual walk-through attraction where visitors could experience the story of Sleeping Beauty from inside the castle itself. It seemed like a perfect idea to bring more magic to what was already the most photographed structure in the park. When Walt sent his team of engineers and Imagineers to survey the castle and start planning the renovation, they got quite a surprise. As they began exploring the interior spaces, they discovered that Sleeping Beauty Castle had become home to a thriving colony of feral cats. Scores of cats had taken up residence in the nooks, crannies, and hidden spaces throughout the structure, apparently finding it to be an ideal shelter. The cats had been living there completely undetected by park operations, quietly occupying the castle while millions of guests walked through and around it every year. But the feline squatters weren't the only problem the engineers encountered. Along with the cats came a massive flea infestation that had spread throughout the interior of the castle. The combination of dozens of cats and countless fleas meant that the building needed serious cleaning and pest control before any attraction could be installed. The discovery completely changed the scope of the renovation project, as the team now had to deal with removing the animals humanely and thoroughly exterminating the fleas before they could even begin the actual construction work. The cat colony had apparently been thriving in secret for quite some time, turning one of Disneyland's most magical landmarks into their own private kingdom. It took significant effort to clear out the castle and make it suitable for guests. But eventually, the Sleeping Beauty Castle walk-through attraction opened in 1957, giving visitors the enchanted experience Walt had envisioned, minus the unauthorized feline residents. Fact 5. Cast members must say goodnight to a ghost. If you've ever ridden Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland, you might have been sharing the experience with someone you couldn't see. According to a long-standing tradition among cast members, the attraction is home to a spirit named George, believed to be the ghost of a construction worker who died while the ride was being built back in the 1960s. Every morning before the park opens, cast members greet the ride by saying, "Good morning, George." And every night after closing, they bid him farewell with, "Good night, George." It's not just a cute ritual. Cast members genuinely believe that forgetting to acknowledge George can lead to strange malfunctions and unexplained incidents on the ride. The legend says that George was a welder or construction worker who fell from the scaffolding during the attraction's construction, and died on site. Since then, employees have reported unusual occurrences when George isn't properly greeted. Lights flicker on and off, audio tracks stop working for no apparent reason, and animatronic figures sometimes activate when they shouldn't. Some cast members have even claimed to see a shadowy figure moving through the ride after hours. Whether these stories are true or simply the result of an active imagination combined with an aging mechanical system, the tradition has become deeply embedded in the culture of the attraction. The practice is taken seriously enough that new cast members are taught about George during their training, and it's considered bad luck to skip the greeting. Some employees have shared that they feel genuinely uneasy if they forget to say hello or goodbye to George, worried that their shift might be plagued with technical difficulties. The tradition has been maintained for decades, passed down from one generation of cast members to the next, making it one of the most enduring superstitions in Disney park history. It's a reminder that even in the happiest place on earth, there's room for a little mystery and a healthy respect for the unknown. Fact 6. Some animatronics run all night long. If you've ever visited a Disney theme park after dark, you might have noticed something a little unsettling. Some of the animatronics never actually stop moving. Even when the park is closed and the lights are off, certain figures keep twitching, shifting, and swaying in the empty darkness. But this isn't some kind of malfunction or haunted attraction gone rogue. It's actually by design, and the reason comes down to the delicate technology that brings these characters to life. Many of the most advanced animatronics at Disney parks are powered by hydraulic systems, which use pressurized fluid to create smooth, lifelike movements. These systems are incredibly precise and allow the figures to move in ways that feel almost human. But here's the catch. Hydraulic fluid doesn't respond well to being left completely still for long periods of time. When the temperature drops overnight, that fluid can thicken or even freeze up inside the lines and joints of the animatronic. And when that happens, the whole system can seize, causing serious damage to the expensive components inside. But it's not just the hydraulics that are at risk. These high-end animatronics are also covered in custom-made silicone skins that are designed to look incredibly realistic, down to the smallest wrinkle or pore. These skins are molded specifically for each character and cost thousands of dollars to produce. If the hydraulic system underneath freezes and then suddenly restarts, it can tear or crack the silicone, ruining the figure's appearance and requiring costly repairs or replacements. So instead of shutting everything down completely at the end of the day, Disney engineers program certain animatronics to keep moving just a little bit throughout the night. They might rock gently back and forth, turn their heads slowly, or shift their weight from side to side. It's just enough motion to keep the hydraulic fluid circulating and the joints from locking up. It also helps preserve the integrity of those delicate silicone skins, keeping them flexible and preventing any stress damage that could show up the next morning when guests arrive. Fact 7. Third shift gets an annual party. In Tomorrowland. While most Disneyland guests are fast asleep in their hotel rooms, there's a whole crew of cast members keeping the magic alive through the night. These third shift workers handle everything from deep cleaning Main Street to repairing broken animatronics and restocking merchandise for the next day's crowds. And to show appreciation for these overnight employees who work while the rest of the world sleeps, Disneyland management hosts a special annual celebration just for them. Every year, the park throws an exclusive third shift celebration party in Tomorrowland, transforming the futuristic land into a private appreciation event. The overnight workers get to enjoy free food throughout the evening, with catering stations set up across the area. Management hands out gifts and tokens of appreciation to recognize the hard work these cast members put in during those quiet behind-the-scenes hours when the park is closed to guests. One of the most popular features of the celebration is the chance to take photos with stormtroopers, bringing a bit of Star Wars magic to the event and giving these workers a taste of the park experience they help create, but rarely get to enjoy themselves. This private party gives third shift employees something special to look forward to each year. While they're used to seeing Tomorrowland empty and quiet during their regular shifts, the celebration fills it with their coworkers and creates a sense of community among the overnight crew. It's a rare moment when these behind-the-scenes workers step out of the shadows and get recognized for their essential contributions to keeping Disneyland running smoothly. The party serves as a reminder that even though guests never see the third shift in action, Disney knows just how vital these employees are to maintaining the park's famous attention to detail and cleanliness. Fact 8. Gardeners mow the lawns in the dark with spotlights. At Disney theme parks, the landscaping crews work through the night with an unusual setup that most guests never witness. When the parks close and visitors head home, teams of gardeners arrive with industrial spotlights mounted on trucks and portable stands, flooding sections of the property with artificial light so they can mow lawns, trim hedges, plant flowers, and pull weeds in complete darkness. This nocturnal schedule ensures that guests never see a single lawnmower rolling across the grass or hear the buzz of trimmers during operating hours, preserving the immersive fantasy that Disney works so hard to maintain. The practice grew out of Walt Disney's obsession with creating a seamless experience where nothing breaks the magic. He believed that seeing maintenance workers pushing mowers or kneeling in flower beds would remind guests they were in a manufactured environment rather than a truly enchanted kingdom. So the horticulture teams adapted to working entirely after dark, transforming what would normally be daytime tasks into carefully lit nighttime operations. The spotlights cast bright pools of light across flower beds and lawn sections, allowing workers to see well enough to handle delicate tasks, like trimming topiaries into character shapes or replacing wilted blooms with fresh ones. The overnight schedule also solves practical problems beyond just visibility. Mowing and trimming during park hours would create noise that disrupts shows, parades, and the overall atmosphere. It would also mean roping off sections of grass and gardens while work happens, which conflicts with Disney's commitment to keeping every inch of the park accessible and picture-perfect throughout the day. By working through the night, the landscaping crews can complete their maintenance without ever interfering with guest experiences. And when the gates open each morning, the parks look flawless, as if the flowers simply grew into perfect arrangements on their own and the grass trimmed itself while everyone slept. Fact 9. They touch up paint but never repaint everything nightly. You've probably heard the rumor that Disneyland gets completely repainted every single night, making it look brand new each morning. It sounds like the kind of magical, over-the-top thing Disney would do, but the reality is actually a lot more practical. The overnight maintenance crew doesn't repaint the entire park nightly. They focus on strategic touch-up work instead, fixing only the spots that need attention. The third shift paint team walks through the park looking for areas where the paint has started to crack, peel, or fade from constant sun exposure and the wear and tear of thousands of visitors every day. When they find these problem spots, they carefully touch them up using the exact color matches that Disney keeps on hand for every surface in the park. This targeted approach keeps everything looking fresh without the logistical nightmare that a full repaint would create. Think about what would actually happen if they tried to repaint everything overnight. First, you'd need wet paint signs absolutely everywhere, which would ruin the immersive experience Disney works so hard to create. Guests would be dodging barriers and warnings all over Main Street, Fantasyland, and every other area of the park. Second, painting over existing paint night after night would create a thick, uneven buildup that would eventually crack and peel even worse than before. The layers would become so heavy that they'd actually damage the surfaces underneath. The touch-up system is smarter because it addresses real problems as they appear rather than creating new ones. The maintenance team has developed an efficient process over decades, knowing exactly which high-traffic areas need the most frequent attention and which paints hold up best in different parts of the park. They can fix a scuffed wall or a faded railing in minutes, and by morning, those spots blend seamlessly with everything around them. So while Disneyland doesn't get a complete paint job every night, the careful touch-up work does help maintain that impossibly pristine look that makes people believe the myth in the first place. Fact 10. Regular guests can attend special after-hours events. If you're willing to stay up late and pay a little extra, Disneyland offers a truly magical way to experience the park like never before. Throughout the year, the resort hosts special separately ticketed events called Disneyland After Dark, where guests can enjoy the attractions and entertainment from 9 p.m. until 1 a.m. with significantly smaller crowds than during regular operating hours. These themed events transform the park into an exclusive nighttime playground, offering an experience that feels almost private compared to the usual daytime rush. Each Disneyland After Dark event centers around a specific theme, which could be anything from celebrating classic Disney villains to honoring fan-favorite movies or seasonal celebrations. The theming goes far beyond simple decorations, with specially designed entertainment, unique photo opportunities, and exclusive food and beverage offerings that you won't find during regular park hours. Guests who attend these events also get the chance to meet and take photos with rare character appearances, including beloved Disney personalities who don't typically greet visitors during normal operations. One of the biggest draws of these after-hours events is the incredibly short wait times for attractions. Popular rides that might have hour-long queues during the day often have virtually no wait at all during these special nights, allowing guests to experience their favorite attractions multiple times in a single evening without the usual frustration of standing in line. The limited ticket sales for each event ensure that the park never feels overcrowded, creating a relaxed and leisurely atmosphere that's perfect for families, couples, or dedicated Disney fans who want to savor every moment. The events also include complimentary snacks and beverages throughout the night, along with special entertainment like dance parties, themed music, and sometimes even exclusive shows or fireworks presentations created just for that particular event. For guests looking to maximize their Disneyland experience and see the park from a completely different perspective, these after-hours events offer an unforgettable way to create new memories in the happiest place on Earth. Fact 11. Guests who hide overnight get caught by the sweep. If you've ever dreamed of spending the night inside Disneyland, you're definitely not alone. Over the decades, plenty of guests have tried to make that fantasy a reality by attempting to hide somewhere in the park after closing time. Maybe they thought they could tuck themselves away in a quiet corner of the Haunted Mansion or squeeze into a storage closet near Pirates of the Caribbean. But here's the thing. Disney has thought of that too, and they're way ahead of you. Every single night after the park closes, security conducts what's known as a sweep, and it's far more thorough than most people realize. This isn't just a few guards strolling around with flashlights. The sweep involves managers and cast members walking literally hand in hand down every single pathway in the park. They check every bathroom stall, every nook and cranny, every potential hiding spot you could imagine. The goal is simple: make absolutely certain that no guests remain inside the park once it's closed. This process can take hours, and it's incredibly meticulous. Cast members are trained to look in places you wouldn't even think of, under benches, behind decorative plants, inside alcoves, and even in areas that seem way too obvious to actually work as hiding spots. The hand-in-hand formation isn't just symbolic either. It ensures that no space is missed and that the entire width of every pathway is covered as they move through the park. And if someone does get caught trying to hide overnight, the consequences are serious. At minimum, they'll be escorted out of the park immediately. In many cases, they'll also be banned from returning to any Disney property, sometimes for life. Depending on the situation, trespassing charges could even be filed. So while the idea of having Disneyland all to yourself might sound magical, the reality is that Disney's security measures make it nearly impossible to pull off. The sweep system has been refined over decades, and it's designed to catch anyone who tries to stick around after hours. Fact 12. Walt Disney's apartment lamp burns all night. If you've ever visited Disneyland in California and looked up at the Main Street fire station, you might notice a soft light glowing in one of the upper windows. That lamp belongs to Walt Disney's private apartment, a cozy hideaway he kept above the firehouse so he could stay close to the park he loved. Walt used to spend time there with his family, watching guests enjoy the magic he created below. After he passed away in 1966, the lamp in that window was left on as a permanent tribute to his memory, and it's been burning ever since. The apartment itself is a small but meaningful space filled with Victorian-style furnishings and personal touches that reflect Walt's taste. It was his retreat within the park, a place where he could observe Main Street without being noticed. Today, the apartment is carefully preserved and rarely open to the public, though some special tours occasionally allow glimpses inside. But that lamp in the window remains visible to everyone, shining every single night as a reminder that Walt's spirit still watches over Disneyland. What makes this even more interesting is that some cast members have reported strange experiences with the lamp over the years. There are stories of maintenance workers turning the light off for cleaning or repairs, only to find it switched back on when they return. Some say they've seen it flicker or glow brighter at unexpected moments, as if someone unseen is keeping watch. Whether these accounts are true or simply part of the park's growing mythology is hard to say, but they've become part of Disneyland lore nonetheless. Disney has never officially commented on these reports, and the lamp continues to burn every night without explanation. For many fans and employees, the light represents more than just a memorial. It's a symbol that Walt Disney's vision and presence never truly left the park, and that in some way, he's still there, keeping an eye on the place he called his happiest creation. Fact 13. The park music keeps playing until 2 a.m. When the last guest leaves Disneyland and the gates close for the night, you might expect the park to fall into complete silence. But that's not quite what happens. According to former cast members who've worked the closing shifts, the cheerful background music that fills the park during operating hours doesn't stop when the crowds go home. Instead, those familiar tunes continue playing throughout the empty streets and walkways until nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, creating what many describe as an unexpectedly eerie atmosphere. The music that brings so much energy and joy to millions of visitors during the day takes on a completely different character when it's echoing through deserted pathways with no one around to hear it. Cast members who've stayed late for closing duties or overnight maintenance work have shared their experiences of walking through areas like Main Street USA or Fantasyland, while upbeat Disney songs continue playing to an audience of precisely 0 people. What's meant to feel magical and inviting during park hours can feel unsettling when you're one of only a handful of people in a place designed to hold thousands. The reason the music keeps playing for so long after closing relates to the park's operations and the work that happens overnight. Cleaning crews, maintenance teams, and security personnel are still moving throughout Disneyland for hours after the guests leave, handling everything from trash removal to ride inspections to restocking merchandise. The continued music serves a practical purpose, maintaining some sense of normalcy and perhaps making the vast, empty park feel slightly less isolating for the workers who are there. Still, there's something undeniably strange about hearing "It's a Small World" or classic Disney tunes floating through completely vacant streets in the middle of the night. A reminder that Disneyland exists in 2 very different versions, depending on what side of closing time you're experiencing. Fact 14. Maintenance teams walk the tracks of every ride. Every single morning before the gates open at Disneyland, maintenance crews are already hard at work doing something that most guests never even think about. Teams of workers walk the entire length of every single roller coaster track in the park, inspecting every inch and picking up anything that doesn't belong there. This means someone is walking along the tracks of Space Mountain in complete darkness, climbing through the twisting logs of Splash Mountain, and traversing every other attraction that has a track system. What are they looking for? Mostly hats, sunglasses, phones, and random trash that flew off guests during the rides the day before. When you're whipping around corners at high speeds or plunging down a steep drop, things tend to go flying, and all of those lost items have to land somewhere. If they're not removed, they can actually become safety hazards or damage the ride mechanisms. The morning track walks serve a dual purpose beyond just cleaning up lost property. While the maintenance teams are out there, they're also doing visual inspections of the track itself, looking for any signs of wear, loose bolts, or anything else that might need attention before thousands of guests start riding. It's a crucial part of Disney's daily safety routine that happens completely behind the scenes. These crews have to get up incredibly early to complete their inspections before the park opens, which means they're often walking the tracks in the pre-dawn hours. For indoor coasters like Space Mountain, they're doing this work in the dark with flashlights, navigating the same twists and turns that guests experience, just at a much slower pace and on foot instead of in a ride vehicle. All of those lost hats and phones that guests assume are gone forever? Many of them end up in the parks lost and found after being retrieved during these morning walks. So if you've ever lost something on a Disney ride, there's a decent chance a maintenance worker found it while walking the tracks before the sun even came up. Fact 15. The park has been operating without city sewers. When you visit Disneyland or Disney California, Adventure Today, you're walking through parks that handle waste in a way that might surprise you. Despite being 69 years old and sitting right in the middle of Anaheim, these massive theme parks still don't connect to the city's public sewer system. Instead, both parks rely entirely on enormous underground septic tank systems to handle all the waste produced by tens of thousands of daily visitors. This setup means that every single night after the parks close, specially trained crews have to pump out these massive septic tanks to keep everything running smoothly for the next day's guests. It's a logistical operation that most visitors never think about, but it happens like clockwork behind the scenes. The tanks themselves are buried deep beneath the parks, taking up significant underground space that could have been used for utilities or even ride infrastructure. You might wonder why Disney never just connected to Anaheim's municipal sewer lines like virtually every other major business in the area. The answer comes down to a combination of timing, infrastructure, and cost. When Walt Disney first built Disneyland back in 1955, the area around the park was mostly orange groves and undeveloped land. Installing septic systems made perfect sense at the time because the city's sewer infrastructure hadn't expanded that far yet. But as Anaheim grew up around Disneyland over the decades, Disney apparently decided that retrofitting the parks to connect to city sewers would be too expensive and disruptive. The scale of these septic systems is genuinely impressive when you consider how much they have to handle. On any given day, both parks combined can host over 100,000 guests, all using restrooms, restaurants, and other facilities throughout their visit. Managing that level of waste through septic tanks rather than a direct sewer connection requires careful planning and constant maintenance that continues long after guests head home for the night. Head home for the night. Head home for the night. Head home for the night.